Is win or be swept for the Celtics tonight. And joining us right now on the Harbor One hotline, it is former Celtic, the great Dee Brown. Dee, good morning. Thanks for being on again.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to ask you about the other night because it seemed like around the league, and certainly here, there were many who felt like the Celtics in that game particularly embarrassed this legendary franchise and quit on the fans and on this franchise. As somebody who was here for a reasonable amount of time, did you feel the same way?
You saw it the way their reactions was when they were playing, so it's easier for her to say that. And again, it's always, it's the worst day in Celtics history when, we look like that. You're, basically a must-win, pivotal Game 3, and you really, don't feel like you gave the full effort. You didn't play, Celtics basketball the way you played throughout the playoffs. Miami just had so much energy, and maybe because their energy was so high and the role players were playing at a high level, it basically made, the Celtics look really, really bad in their preparation, their, intent to detail, and also, like you said, their effort. So, yeah, it looked like that way, especially when you sit the starters the whole fourth quarter. It's pretty much like, listen, we're throwing a white towel and we're getting ready for the next game. But you never know what can happen in a basketball game. You say, hey, we got to save our legs for Game 4. You can't give away games in playoffs, and it was tough to watch. And, Coach Joe, he's taken a lot of heat and responsibility for that loss, and it's a team effort. He's young, he's learning. As a first-year head coach, the pressures of being, number one, a Celtics head coach, because that's pressure every time you step on the court, but also, the intent of, a failed year is not getting to the finals, not getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not getting to the finals. So I think he's a little bit of heat with that. So it's a combination of both with, the effort that was portrayed in Game 3. I'm sure they'll come out with better effort tonight. And Coach Joe just figuring out how to push the right buttons to get those guys going for Game 4.
Some of the things that frustrate me as a fan is like when I hear guys like Magic or Barkley, I call them the old heads of the game, right? And they tend to criticize some of the younger players and, this wouldn't happen in the heydays of the Birds. But I would ask you, when you were playing, did you feel like, whether it was the analysts back at those times, whether it was the guys like Isaiah Thomas or Bill Walton, when you were a player, trying to then always compare your teams to what the Celtics of the mid-'80s wouldn't do? Isn't that frustrating for you as a player, knowing that you're always being compared to a different era of the game where things were completely different?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Again, you always give an experience on what you went through as a player, and I played, all the 90s, early, late 80s. So I played against Magic and played with Bird and played against Barkley. I've never been that guy that sat on my stoop and go, don't come on my yard type of basketball old head, because I'm considered old head now after being in the league for 30-plus years. But the game has changed. The talent is a lot different. The athleticism is a lot different. The coach is different. The international players have came over and changed the way the game is played. Look at Jokic, look at Luka, look at Embiid. The game has changed a lot than when we played. And I don't get on that soapbox because I know the rules have changed, similar to football. Mm-hmm. People say that about quarterbacks and wide receivers. You can't hit them, and guys can throw for 6,000 yards if they want to. It's frustrating sometimes to hear because it's not the same. The game was different. It doesn't make these players less as talented as Bird and Barkley and Mikal and Michael. These guys are very talented in their own right to do things they do. And yes, listen, was the game physical? Yes. Flagrant fouls they get now would have been touch fouls in the 80s and 90s. Yes, but that's the rules of the game. And when they change, you have to adapt, and players have to adapt to be the best version of themselves in the new rules.
Dee, when you hear guys like Malcolm Brogdon talk about the identity of this team and the fact that it's been waning all season long and they haven't really figured it out, to be this far into the postseason and to have guys that aren't rookies, that are vets in this league and have played together for quite some time, not be able to figure that out, who do you place the blame on there?
To me, that's a scary comment when you say that with in the elimination game in Eastern Conference Finals, when you're saying we don't know that, and you do know that, and the blame is obviously the players got to play the game, the coaches got to coach. Your two best players, most talented players, are Jayson and Jaylen. They've got to have one of those epic games together. It can't be Jayson going for 51 or Jaylen going for 47. They've got to have a combined great offensive effort where they both, obviously score the ball well, but also Malcolm, Marcus, Al's got to shoot the ball well. The role players, I mean, it's right now it's a role players game. You've got 3, maybe 4 undrafted players for the Heat just playing harder right now. They're making shots, they're doing their thing, and our main guys are struggling, but the role players are not taking up the slack. So it's a combination of both. Everybody takes the blame on this. This is not all Jayson and Jaylen. Everybody's got to take a little bit of this humble pie right now and not get swept. And I think that's the key thing. Whatever that takes, whatever you got to do to sacrifice for this one game. So 1-game series now. Every game's a 1-game series. There's no the first one to 4. Well, they win 1. They got 4. So right now it's put everything we got on the line, and whatever sacrifice we got to do. If I'm diving in the stands, getting loose balls, maybe taking a hard foul, whatever it is to get yourself and your teammates going. Malcolm, who's 6th man of the year, you got 2 All-NBA players, second team All-Defensive player, former Defensive Player of the Year. There's enough there to get it done.
Dee, I asked you about Rick Pitino last time, so I'm not going to do that again. But in general, what does bad coaching do to a roster? In what way, for people that haven't played at the level you were on, there's been a lot of talk about Missoula and the impact on this year's team. In what ways do you see tangibly where that would be an impact on the court in a negative way?
The term that gets used a lot, and I hate people saying it so quickly, is he lost the locker room. Like you lose games, and that loses the locker room. Losing is terrible. Winning's the best deodorant. It covers everything that stinks. So that's what's happening when you lose. There's things that pop up that maybe you didn't take care of during the course of the year. And what you quote unquote bad coach? I don't think Coach Missoula's a bad coach. I think he's young and inexperienced in this environment and got thrown in a tough situation. I don't know what the future is if they get swept for him. What they're going to make with the team. But losing breeds bad culture. That's what it does. And it goes to where we didn't step up as players, and, our coach didn't make the right adjustments. He should have did this, because everybody can be, again, I know it's Tuesday, but we could be Tuesday morning quarterbacks right now and saying all the different things he should have done. And he'll identify that. That's what good coaching does. They learn, they watch film, and they put their players in the best position to succeed. So what bad coaching does, it deflates you, because you feel like when you're sitting on that bench and you're looking him in the face, he's got an answer for you. He looks positive. He looks confident. I thought Joe didn't look, the first time I really saw him, didn't look really confident on that stage when he was talking about the team, probably in timeouts, and he's got to get that back. And he can get back. Again, winning will resolve all that stuff, and if he wins Game 4, then you got another one back in Boston, and you go from there.
I think that I was thinking about this when you were talking, and one of the things that we've discussed here, like some of the biggest issues that we as fans look like, and Courtney, I know, talked about the identity and how the flow of the game goes. When you look at the Miami Heat, everything flows through Jimmy Butler. When you look at the Denver Nuggets, everything's through Jokic and through Jamal Murray. You played on a team, and you talk about role players, and I don't know if the role players here understand that, but can you give us like an insight when it was Bird, and I know he was at the end of his career, but it was McHale and Parrish and Reggie Lewis. What was like the mindset of the way the game flowed through those superstars, where I don't think it flows the same way here through Tatum and Brown? I feel like it's too much me ball. Yeah,
that's been always the same. With can they coexist? Can they play together? They both want to be 1As and one's got to be a 1B, and they've showed times they can do that, and they look really good, and everybody kind of fit into the little puzzle. And then there's times where you're struggling, everybody wants to be hero ball and make plays for themselves and take bad shots. And, with Bird, Mikal, and Parrish and Reggie, when I was the point guard, they all thought they were open every possession. They thought they had a mismatch every time, and my job was to make sure Larry got the ball first. If Kevin had a mismatch, and then Chief was the other guy, and then Reggie was good enough to find his own shot because he was young and up and coming. He can create his own shot, and everybody knew that. Everybody knew the pecking order. It was said but unsaid, And we ran the ball through Larry. Even in his career, we still ran the offense through Larry, and then it started kind of shifting to Reggie being a primary focal point. But we all knew that, and we accepted that, and we played for that reason. It wasn't because there's a $300 million contract on the table, which, Jayson and Jaylen probably have options and access to in the next 2 years. We wanted to win the game. And being around me coming in, being around, 3-time NBA champions and those guys and Hall of Famers every day, some things you just didn't have to say. You just knew how it worked and what you had to do and what that looked like just because of the conversation you have in the locker room or the way you practice. And I think, listen, I'm not the person that should think about if they lose this game, you blow it up and you split up Jayson and Jaylen. I think, like you said, role players, have to start figuring out a little bit better. They have to do a better job of being better leaders on the court, and not it's not about offense and how much you're scoring, but why you make your players better. That's why Bird, those guys are so good. All the great players. They made me feel like I was the best person on the court. When I was open and I shot it and I missed it, it's okay. Just keep shooting it, and they trusted me. But I earned that trust. So Jaylen and Jayson's got to trust their teammates. And that's what you see now with Butler doing, trusting Bam and those guys. You see Jokic doing it with Murray. You got to trust your guys to make plays because that's what they're there to do.
D, I'm an old head. So take this as you will. But you mentioned Bird, Mikal, and Robert Parrish. Would those guys ever have been okay with sitting in a fourth quarter like it appeared Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown were the other night?
I don't know if Jayson and Jaylen were happy about sitting in the fourth quarter. I just think they knew that this game might have been over with, probably the best. Again, you got to trust your coaches. You got to trust your coaches, and you got to trust your staff and saying, "Hey, we got another one coming up." And I'm sure they wasn't happy. Like I said, those three guys hated not playing. Period. Like they loved to play. Like our practices were like our games. So they just loved to be on the court all the time, no matter because they always thought they had a chance to win. Until that clock said 0-0-0, and they could go on the court and perform. They won't go to perform. I'm sure there's times, and I know probably before me, in the mid '80s, where the Lakers, where they had all the the different rivalries going back and forth between Magic and Bird, and a couple blowouts and guys sitting down. I'm sure there's games where Larry, those guys sat down, and Magic's guys sat down, and some blowouts. So it's not something that's never happened before. I can guarantee Jayson and Jaylen wasn't happy sitting down and watching these guys run around and call Jimmy Butler doing the timeout sign all Horford. That makes you mad, and maybe I use that as inner fuel and motivation to come out with a different level of effort and intensity in Game 4.
All right, Dee Brown. Anything you see in this team so far that indicates to you they can be the first team ever to come back down 3-0?
They're the Celtics. I mean, come on now. I mean, it's still my team. I'm rooting for them until it says 4-0, 4 whatever. I'm still rooting for my guys because I think they've tasted it last year getting to the finals. I don't know if they don't want to go out this way, so I think they got some pride. We talk about Celtics pride. They have pride. I think for the last couple of days, the scrutiny's been on obviously Joe. And him making adjustments and having the team prepared, they're caught with a better effort. I really think so. Coming back from 3-0, I don't want to jump that far. Like I said, it's a one-game series right now. You got to win Game 4 to get Game 5.
Wiggy has,
it's possible. It's possible.
Wiggy has $95 that hopes you're right.
Yes,
Curtis.
Just a quick thing, D, because you were unable to win a championship in your professional career.
Right.
Perspective is the only thing Tatum and Brown lack. If you were to tell them, what you would give to be where they are one more time. You know, with the team they have and the competition that remains.
Yeah, don't give up these moments. These don't come easy. I mean, we talk about the greats, you know, the Magic, the Bron, you know, the Jordans, the Birds, and people think it's easy getting to the finals and Eastern Conference Finals and playing these situations and being the last 4 teams standing. These don't come easy. This is big. The grind of 82 games, preseason, getting ready in the summer is a grind. And when you get this opportunity, you do not want to, pardon my French, you know, poop the bed in this situation and think like we'll get back next year. It doesn't work that way. You know, they got to the finals last year, Eastern Conference Finals this year. They've been to Eastern Conference Finals a couple times. You know, and we take it for granted like this is you just show up the next year and it all works out and falls into place and we're going to just turn it around and get to the finals. I would say this is the most important game of your life right now. It really is. Like this is a identifier of who you are as a player, as you know, going down as a Celtic great. We talked about it last time. If he's a Celtic, if Jayson's a Celtic great yet. And I said no, and I still believe that until you win a championship because there's so many great champions in Celtics history. And this is an identifier right now. This is a marker in history for these two guys to identify themselves, how they want to go down as Celtics players. You get swept, you know, doesn't make a bad player. It tarnishes kind of what you've done. But like I said, I think they'll come out and they'll be ready for Game 4.
Dee Brown, always a pleasure. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Guys, appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies, thank you very much for having me.
Oh.